How important is social media in today's democracies? Well, I was asked, and given you're all here for social media reasons, it's probably a rhetorical question, but I thought I'd go through the experience of my blog, how social media is central to what we do, and then switch to how politicians use and see social media. So I started out in 2004, 600 hits a month, mostly me pressing F5 to see if anyone left a comment. We had some cut through, had some stories got picked up by mainstream media, tens of thousands, and then we've become part of the media ecology and British political reporting, established part of it. And nowadays, I suppose, given we're in the sun, I can't really claim we're outsiders outside the network. When we've got a column in the second most read newspaper in the English-speaking world after the Times of India. I came late to... all bloggers always boast about traffic, don't they? So I was just comparing that to the New Statesman. It's been around 100 years. We've caught up with them in 9 years. And I see our peers as the other political trade press, the Spectator and the New Statesman. And we've got, in terms of reach and readers, roughly equivalent readerships. I was late to Twitter. I jumped on it in 2008, but didn't really do anything with it. I didn't really understand it. And I did think it was going to be a fad. And we just used to use it to pump out the headlines from the blog. And then Harry, who works as my number 2, showed me it on a phone. And suddenly I realised, it is better. I get it now. And nowadays, we have, a couple of TV screens up in the newsroom, and we have a big TweetDeck screen, which we have search terms on, and we're watching that constantly, and it's a great tip-off line, and, it's better than the newswires, it's better than Reuters, quicker than the BBC, quicker than Sky. So it's now not a major... No one ever gets a scoop off Twitter, but you do get kind of lines of interest to take and pick up things quite fast. The guys who work for me use it, direct message people. I prefer email. I'm getting old-fashioned and text messaging. I'm actually phoning people or buying them a drink. But they direct message all the players and the active people in politics. It's a great shortcut to the great and the good. You can get yourself on a par and feel like you're in a conversation with major players in politics. The whole of the British political system is all on Twitter now, even the holdouts. Peter Oborne's the last holdout who's given in today. He's a sort of very crusty, old-school journalist and a friend of mine, and he has surrendered to Twitter today. It's also a great shortcut to the not-so-good, the spin doctors, the special advisors, producers, the entire chattering class. We're all there chatting amongst each other. And then when you actually meet them for the first time, you feel like you know them over at a cocktail party, which people find... I'm not as aggressive in real life as I am on Twitter, for instance. They find that's a bit of a pleasant surprise for them, I hope. I'm going to give a disclaimer, I should say, because we're going to say things about politicians, that I have a firm or an interest in a firm that actually advises political parties and campaigns and social media. And it's not a case of a gamekeeper turned poacher, it's more a hunter turned advisor to the prey, I think. The first thing I always say to people is people forget email. Email is probably the best way of communicating for politicians. It's much more powerful than Twitter. You can get a direct link. You can't really easily raise money from Twitter, but you can in an email. And that, when you couple that with postcodes or zip codes, is probably the most important bit of information politicians want nowadays about voters. Drive-by media, I prefer to think of Facebook. It's more than just a like. In the UK, I think something like a third of 18 to 24s log on before lunchtime. Scary. And they're probably the most difficult demographic for politicians to access because they're not interested in watching Newsnight or the current affair shows. Also, Facebook is doing interesting things, maybe scary things if you're concerned about civil liberties, with data. And all the political parties in the UK and the States are investing a lot of effort into knowing about you. If they have your email, Facebook will tell them, will almost tell them who your friends are. Some data protection issues in Europe, but no data protection issues in the States. The stuff that Obama did online on Facebook would be illegal in the UK. And Facebook are lobbying in Brussels to make sure that that changes. I'm not sure they'll be successful. Free social media. They get very excited about all this, the politicians. Nobody's interested in what politicians have got to say if they're talking about policy or boring things like taxes. So unless they're going to do cats or sex like Katy Perry or Justin Bieber, they don't really get free social media. So they're starting to pay for it. And a lot of stuff you see or will see when an election comes is paid for social media. When I advise them, politicians, I say, be careful. Loose tweets sink fleets is my tip to them. And there's been so many cases where a politician's got into a row or said something injudicious, and it's backfired and become a story. And I think it's easy for journalists, who are quite lazy, when there's a Twitter story, because you can just cut and paste it. Everybody involved in the story is right there, and you can put it up on the newspaper's website straight away, and we've got a scandal and controversy straight away. I also advise them not to drink and tweet. Nigel Evans, who is the Speaker of the Deputy Speaker, was the Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, and is now, I think he's got 8 gay rape charges against him. He outed himself a couple of years ago, but the reason he said he outed himself in the speech was very interesting. He said, I got fed up with people spotting me in gay bars on Twitter. So he kind of, the anonymity of Twitter is part of the reason he had to come out. I also tell them not to feed the trolls. I don't know if you are familiar with the phrase troll. These are people who are often unpleasant, definitely opposed to you, and they are very antagonistic. And I think you waste your time if you try and deal with them. If they don't have many followers, if they have 10 followers, just ignore them, forget it. I just block people and block people every day. So that's my view of people who are racist and sexist and all that kind of stuff. Just block them and don't bother going after them legally. I also tell politicians to remember the audience. Their supporters. If they're telling you, let's all go out canvassing and knocking on doors or whatever it is they're doing, that's addressed to activists. And I think it's inappropriate for them to do that on Twitter because it's very public, and all that stuff will be seen by the media and potential voters. So I think they should keep it restricted and behind closed doors to some extent, maybe using email. This is the big thing. Many politicians think, and I think the media played into this narrative in a big way because it was interesting, it was a new thing, that Obama's victory was due, in part or wholly, to social media. And that's just not true. There's no way that's true. Twittering and all that stuff was very sexy and certainly energized activists. It didn't contribute in as much in a big way to his victory as having $1 billion in the bank contributed. And also they say, our average take was something like $50, so I can't remember the figure. Actually, half that money came from good old-fashioned big money from the unions. Sarkozy's people recently believed all that. They were showing people the newsroom, the war room, and there was 80 people sat at screens. He lost. Down south, just recently, the Australian Labour Party, they got Blue State Digital in, Matt McGregor, who was Obama's tweeting guy. They lost. In fact, social media became almost a joke. The conservative, liberal winners of the election basically made the overuse of social media a laughing point for speeches on the stump. In the UK, Blue State Digital, Obama's people, again, ran the digital campaign we had a referendum on changing the voting system to an alternative vote. If you were watching social media, it appealed very much to social media campaigners. Blue State Digital were doing that. The yes to the alternative vote side looked like they were going to win 4-1. I'm not going to reveal any clients, but I was sat on the other side, and we were thinking, is this for real? And the polling was showing it was going our way. The media were looking at Twitter and social media and thinking we're going to lose. We won 2-1 after that. So it's not really a good sentiment indicator, Twitter, because the demographic even changes during the day. If you look at Twitter sentiment during the day, it tends to be more left-wing, students, people who don't have jobs. And in the afternoon, when people with commuters are going home, it tends to slightly move to the right. So I wouldn't use Twitter as the best indicator of what's going on in politics. Social media is a great tool for engagement at a local level. If you're a candidate or a local councillor or something like that, it's a great feedback loop. They can tell you about the broken pavement and all that stuff. It's not going to work for President Obama with millions of followers. It's not even practical. It's not going to work for any major politician with 1 million people on there following them. At scale, it's more a broadcast tool and a market research tool and a means of organising and fundraising, which is what Obama did with his social media efforts. That's not why politicians love social media so much. They love it because they think they can cut out old-string media. That's what they really love about it. They don't think they have to be intermediated by the hard interviews. They think they can get straight to the voter. That's the real reason they love it. Thank you.